Let's play a game. Look at these two drawings and tell me which you think is Kiki and which is Booba. Remember your choice, it will be important. I know we've all been in that situation of juggling between having ice cream or going to the gym. I know, it's tough. Let's say you choose the sugary embrace of ice cream, or you're a masochist and you go to the gym, or maybe you choose both even. Now think, did you truly possess the free will to pick anything else other than what you did? And if you were placed in the same situation, would you make the same decision time and time again? The conversation about free will and determinism have been around for over 2 millennia and has piqued the interest of philosophers throughout time. The conversation people had about free will and determinism in the past were very different from the ones being had now. Imagine ancient Greece. I mean, you don't have to imagine it. It actually existed. But think about ancient Greece, the birthplace of cheesecake. I bet you didn't know that. That's a fun fact for you. Just keep it in your back pocket. It'd be useful later. I picture the Greek philosophers in their togas, sitting under olive trees, indulging in that risky third joint. You know, that one you probably shouldn't have. I picture them contemplating the age-old existential question, am I free? Back then, the conversation would have resembled freedom of action, which is the ability for a person to do what they want, and fatalism, which is predetermined destiny that is achieved no matter what path you take, usually prescribed by a god. The idea of fate is persistent in Greek mythos. The gods really loved those self-fulfilling prophecies. Take Oedipus, for example. Protagonist in a Greek tragedy. That's definitely one place you don't want to be. He was made aware of a prophecy that claimed he was supposed to annihilate his dad, marry his mom, and pluck out his eyes just for good measure. He tries to escape his fate by fleeing his parents, then proceeds to kill a king he had an altercation with early on in his journey, and then marries said king's wife later. Douchebag move if you ask me. Now, here's the kicker. Turns out that king was his dad, and the woman he married was his mom. And in the horror of discovering this, he plucks out his eyes. Yeah, Greek tragedies or something. Fast forward to now, and the dance between free will and determinism continues. Now the question being asked is free will an illusion? So, what do we consider free will in these modern times? Let's think of free will and determinism as a spectrum. The farther right you go, the more you believe our choices are predetermined by outside preceding factors. And to the left, you believe we're making free choices. On the extreme left, we have libertarian free will, which claims that humans have autonomous control over their action. That there was an equal chance of us choosing ice cream or gym. And on the extreme right, we have hard determinism, which claims that every event has a cause that makes it happen in the one and only way that it could have happened. And so, if all physical events are completely caused by prior events, together with the laws of nature, then as soon as the Big Bang took place 13 billion years ago, the entire history of the universe was already settled. If determinism is true, then everything you've ever done, every choice you've ever made, was already predetermined before our solar system ever existed. And if this is true, then free will has no place in this world. Let's take a look at the famous thought experiment of French physicist Pierre-Simon Laplace. Imagine there was a supercomputer that knew the exact position for every piece of matter in the universe, and it had total knowledge of all the laws that govern the universe. Do you think that supercomputer would be able to perfectly predict every future physical event? The laws of physics, unwavering and steadfast, has birthed predictions that have now been proven correct. These laws stay constant, both on the largest scales, like the predictions of black holes and where they ought to be, to predictions on the smaller scales, like the elusive Higgs boson particle, predicted in 1964, which was only confirmed to exist in 2012, and the Large Hadron Collider at CERN. Very incredible stuff, really. Now imagine a mad scientist who has access to this supercomputer that has total understanding of the universe and knows all the events from the Big Bang until present. Can that scientist, in theory, predict what you will do next since we humans are just walking, talking collections of atoms governed by the laws of physics. Hard determinists believe that with enough knowledge of the facts, everything is predictable based on prior events, regardless of subjective feeling of choice. This topic might feel abstract, but it's important to think about when it comes to ethics and the way we view other people and ourselves. Okay. Now, back to the game we played at the beginning. I assumed you picked this for Kiki and this for Booba, just like I did, just like most people would. If I were to ask you why you made those choices, you might say, it just felt right, right? Okay, how about this one? This is the Mueller-Lyer illusion. Try and figure out which line is longer. Well, if you chose the first one, the first line, you'd be wrong. Maybe you were thinking, well, this has to be some reverse psychology bullshit. And so you chose the bottom line. Clap for yourself, because you're actually also wrong. These lines are both the same length. Don't feel bad if you fell for this illusion. It's actually very human to fall for them. At some point during this video, just at random, I will show you one last illusion. But the twist is, I'm gonna tell you now that both lines in this illusion are the same length, but I want you to not fall for this illusion. In other words, I want you to want to see these lines as the same length. Good luck with that. I realize it's a bit hard to intuitively think about yourself as a collection of atoms obeying the laws of physics. So let's try to look at the biological and social aspect of things, where subjectivity and objectivity engage in a complex dance. So here's the thing. Subjectively speaking, when faced with options A and B, we often get that cozy feeling that we're the grandmasters of our choice. It's like standing at the crossroads and mulling over the possibilities and thinking, yep, I could have gone the other way if I wanted. That sweet illusion of freedom. Subjectively, we feel like captains steering our vessels through the seas of choices. However, objectively, our thoughts, intentions, and impulses are puppeteered by the puppet master of neurophysiology. The stage is set by factors we didn't choose: parents, genes, and the environment. The illusion of conscious choice unravels as we realize our thoughts are but echoes of past experiences and our current neurophysiological state. The Kiki and Booba question and the Mueller-Lyer illusion reveals the layer of influence that shapes our perceptions and decisions. Our cognitive stage is set by an ensemble of evolutionary, psychological, physical, and environmental factors. We understand our physical constraints. No soaring through the skies like mythical beings. No leaping over mountains with a single bound. But the question now is, what do we know about our brains? The brain, an unimaginable wonder, with its neural constellations and the synaptic symphonies. The limits are less tangible, yet profound. We may not fly, but within our minds, thoughts take flight. We may not jump over mountains, but the mind can traverse peaks of imagination. Considering the mystery and power of our brains, what makes us so sure that our subjectivity matches objective reality? A look within shows a dance between neurons, genes, and the echoes of a distant past. Evolution, our teacher. Psychology shapes the choreography, and the environment provides the stage. You didn't choose your parents. You didn't choose your genes. You didn't even choose the environment you were born into. The creation and development of your neurophysiology was most certainly out of your hands. Why is this important? Let me ask you this. Ever felt like a thought just appeared in your mind uninvited? Well, you're not alone. The question now is, are we really consciously choosing those thoughts? Or are they products of our past experience and the current state of our neurophysiology? It's like standing at a thought buffet, but are you the chef or just another hungry customer? Hold on to that thought, no pun intended. Let's think about the result of an experiment carried out by Future Minds Lab at UNSW School of Psychology. Researchers had participants making a decision between two choices. The result of this experiment adds a fascinating layer to the discourse of free will. Why? Well, researchers were able to predict upcoming decisions about 11 seconds before participants themselves became conscious of their decisions. And that raises a profound question about the nature of choices. With the help of modern science now, we know that decisions have an immediate cause, neural events that happen in your brain prior to you being aware. Determinism claims that these neural events have physical causes. We can keep peeling back the layers till the day you were born, even to events prior to your conception. Now think about this. If you could simulate the prior events leading to your existence, would you end up right here, right now, pondering these existential questions? Let me hear your thoughts in the comments. I feel like that was a lot of information, so how about I play what I've learned on my keyboard? I hope you enjoy it. After that, we'll see if there's a middle ground on the free will determinism spectrum. If you know where that song is from, leave it in the comments. Let's see how many people are cultured. This is the Ponzu illusion. Have fun with it, and tell me if you were successful in seeing both lines as the same length. Here's a query for my believers out there. Let's take a stroll down the intersection of religion and free will. Now, for those of you thinking, hey, I've got an immortal soul. That means I must be the captain of my ship. Hold on a second. Turns out you didn't pick that either. Life's full of surprises, huh? In Christian theology, God takes center stage, described as the ultimate VIP, omnipotent, and we can't forget, omniscient. That's right. God knows the whole plot, and he decides who gets plot armor. Now if God has the divine foreknowledge, it raises the question, are any of his subjects free? Take for instance, the divine promise to David, the promise that the Messiah would sprout from his family tree. Let's segue for a bit. We know what the butterfly effect is, right? How the flapping of a butterfly's tiny wings can cause a monstrous tornado down the line. Apply that here. One wrong choice could have been detrimental to that prophecy, unless God had influenced the choices to go the way they wanted it to go, which it doesn't really align with free will. A question for Christians out there is, and I'm actually curious, if God has the script, why bother with prayers? Why not just kick back, trust the divine plan, and enjoy the show? If you feel like your beliefs have been misrepresented, I apologize. I'll go more in depth for this topic in my later videos. Now that we have some information on the two extremes, let's talk about the gray area in the discussion of free will. If you're a hard determinist, free will is counterintuitive to your position. And if you're a libertarian free will type of person, then hard determinism isn't at all permitted in your stance. Is there a possibility that we are affected by outside factors but still freely choosing between different options? These are the questions compatibilism tries to answer. Now, compatibilism doesn't dwell on the extremes. It's however more focused on understanding to what extent are we free. To really understand these ideas, let's define free will better. Remember the gem about free action? You know, the ability to do what you want. Sounds sweet, right? Well, what if you find yourself at a moral crossroad? Picture this. Your phone buzzes at the bank and suddenly you're faced with a choice. Steal to save a loved one. I'm guessing you don't want to lose a loved one, and so you want to steal in order to save them. But clearly we can agree that your wants are being influenced externally. So are you morally responsible for stealing? Okay, based on that you might conclude you are free if you're doing what you want to do without any external coercion. But again, that runs into problems. Let's imagine another situation. First, I want to preface this by saying I'm not an expert on addiction, and I sympathize with people battling or have battled with addiction. Now, imagine someone addicted to oranges. No life-threatening scenario here, just a juicy craving. Now, their desires are calling the shots, but it's not an external threat. Addiction brings its own set of complications. When we think about physical dependence on a substance, we can recognize that it affects your desire for that substance. You see the problem, right? Philosophers have tried to define free will in ways that don't run into the earlier problems. American philosopher Harry Frankfurt was pretty influential with his unique take on free will and his views on personhood. He defines free will as the ability to make your second-order desire align with your first-order desire. I've realized that it might sound like I'm rambling, but just trust me, it's gonna make sense. Dogs, man's best friend. I freaking love a long-haired Dachshund. I hope I can get one day. But that's beside the point. Anyways, do you think a dog has the same level of freedom as you do? And would you hold a dog at the same level of accountability as yourself, a human? I'm guessing probably not. So, why is that? A dog has first-order desires. What are those, you might ask? Well, first-order desire is the desire to act. In other words, when you want to do something. The desire to eat, the desire to run in the field, the desire to sniff butts, the desire for belly scratches, all that good stuff. First-order desires are present in humans too. I know I like to sniff butts. But here's where things get interesting. Enter second-order desire. The desire to have a desire. In other words, when you want to want something. Your dog may sniff butts, but can it ponder, damn, sniffing butts is good and all, but I wish I didn't have to do it all the time. Do you think your dog thinks like that? I doubt it. Humans, on the other hand, are able to reflect on our first-order desires and either wish we didn't have the desire we currently have, or wish we had a desire that we don't currently have. Remember our orange addict? Their life is currently a citrus roller coaster, and they wish they could hop off. The constant desire for oranges has them wanting something different. Frankfurt considers this person an unwilling addict. And on the other side of this, Frankfurt says, if you're a willing addict, that is, wanting to want what you currently want, you are free. It's like saying, I chose this desire and I'm cool with it. But let's be real, Frankfurt's theories aren't without critics. And the compatibilist road isn't a smooth one. Still, he tries to pave a way for free will in a deterministic universe. His works on free will can be very confusing, and I just did a speed run for this. So if you're interested, you should check out his work. It's some interesting stuff. Currently, we can't prove if free will or determinism exists. But let's assume that we can prove hard determinism. How will society respond? And how will this affect the way you see other people? Firstly, our understanding of moral responsibilities will undergo a profound shift. The current belief that individuals have the power to choose differently when committing a crime takes a back seat. Punishment loses its moral footing as people are seen as navigating a predetermined path set by factors beyond their control. In this deterministic scenario, society might focus on prevention and rehabilitation. Instead of assigning blame, the focus shifts to unraveling the complex causal chain leading to criminal behavior. Blame becomes obsolete when we acknowledge that everyone is influenced by prior causes. Think of rewards too. Do they face scrutiny in this deterministic world? The random circumstance of being born into specific causal events becomes a central consideration. The idea of deserving or not deserving is up for debate. No one chooses their starting point, whether it's in a less privileged environment or a life of privilege. Our notion of fairness will be challenged. Labels like good or bad may struggle to capture the diverse experiences dictated by deterministic forces. Compassion and empathy might flourish in this society. As understanding replaces judgment, the focus shifts from individual choices to unraveling the intricate threads of causation. In this deterministic society, the narrative of blame and reward undergoes a transformation, paving the way for a societal paradigm centered around understanding, compassion, and the redefined sense of justice. Now, let's think about this. The first experiment to test decision-making was in 1980 by Benjamin Lebet. The experiment revealed a time lag of half a second before conscious awareness kicked in. With the exponential growth in technology, more recent studies predict decisions a good 11 seconds beforehand. Another researcher, Alvaro Pascal Leon, in his mind-bending research on rudimentary mind control, manipulated subjects' choices by stimulating specific brain hemispheres with magnetic fields. The twist? Subjects believed their choices were made freely. Now, in our capitalist society, the manipulation of human cognition is no secret. Sellers exploit psychology to craft addictive products, from social media to cigarettes to vapes, and the list goes on. We currently uphold the notion of societal freedom, even as advertising openly capitalizes on the illusion of choice or cognitive bias, making us think we have more control than we actually do. Who knows what else they might be taking advantage of? We blame people for getting addicted to products engineered to make them addicted. An example is our relationship with social media. Let's fast forward to an exponential growth in technology. What might be the repercussions of the findings of the earlier mentioned experiments? Will our capitalist society, built on the premise of free will, leverage this understanding of our neurophysiology? In a deterministic world, could the blame shift from individuals to companies exploiting our innate tendencies for financial gain? Picture a society founded on hard determinism. Would accountability pivot from blaming individuals to scrutinizing companies that commodify addiction? These questions invite you to reflect on whether a hard deterministic world might offer a more nuanced setup compared to our current free will-oriented paradigm. Navigating the waters of determinism and free will, I find myself caught between subjective feeling of making choices and the objective reality. It's such an integral part of the human condition. It's so attached to my sense of self. In writing this script, I consider myself a compatibilist, attempting to reconcile the irrepressible sense of free will with the deterministic threads woven into our existence. I even had a whole train analogy to get my point across. Yet as I put my pen to paper, I questioned the harmony of compatibilism within a deterministic framework. Reflecting on the origins of my fundamental beliefs, I confront the stark reality that many were not chosen, but imposed by external forces. I bet if you're religious, there's a high chance you had a religious upbringing. I was born into a Catholic family, but I more or less am an atheist now. And I've thought about it for a while, and I can sort of remember my Catholic beliefs fading as I got interested in books about space, astronomy, Greek and Egyptian mythology as a kid. That's a story for another time though. I understand the relation between past events and our mental states. I understand that we've had no choice over the variables determining our neurophysiology. I think about how chemical imbalances lead to an altered state of consciousness, affecting our reality and therefore our decision making. The intuitive understanding of how extreme circumstances shape our decisions raises the question, does this not apply universally to the average human neurophysiological baseline? Physics adds another layer of complexity. I tried my best to read up on the physics discussions of this, but I'm so doo-doo at physics, so that's gonna take me some time, especially with mentions of quantum physics. Think about time, the future, present, past. How does it relate to our action? Have all events already happened, and are we just going through them? Or is the present the only true moment and the past exists only in memory and written history? And is the future yet to exist? This is also confusing. I guess that's why it's been a topic of debate for over 2 millennia. My current beliefs lean towards determinism, yet the grip of subjective feeling of free will remains unyielding. Algerian philosopher Albert Camus best put it. The only way to deal with an unfree world is to become so absolutely free that your very existence is an act of rebellion. You don't have to pick a side in this debate. However, having an extreme view always has drawbacks. Clinging to libertarian free will might spawn self-blame even in scenarios devoid of choice, fostering regret and self-loathing. Embracing hard determinism, on the other hand, risks evoking a victim mindset, deflecting responsibilities onto external forces. In this dance, my perspectives are fluid, subject to change, and yet Amid this uncertainty, I acknowledge that we humans are pretty incredible for collections of genes and past memories. I really just wanted to make a fun video about something I think about from time to time, but I'm now even more confused with the more information I have. I'll continue my research and studying for my sake, and I'll make this into a free will series if you think you'd be interested. What do you think? Let's end the video here for now, or else I'd go on forever. If you like this video, make sure you like and subscribe, and share too. Thank you for staying to the end, and I hope you enjoyed every moment of it.